This is one of my gnarly looking skin grafts. I also have one on my knee. I've had a lot of people ask, what is a skin graft and how do they do them? Well, if you watch to the end, you will find out. Now, I want to warn you that some of the pictures I'm going to be using are quite graphic, but I'm using them for educational purposes. That being said, they can still be pretty triggering, so viewer discretion is advised. Skin grafts are used on parts of the body that have gone through severe physical trauma, such as burns, skin infections, deep wounds, where the skin is no longer able to heal itself. There are 3 different types of skin grafts. There is autograft, using the patient's own skin, an allograft, using skin obtained from another person, usually a cadaver, and an xenograft, which is free skin obtained from a non-human source, usually a pig or fish. This last type of graft is only used as a temporary measure because the body will obviously reject it. Now, there are also 2 different thickness types of grafts. There are full thickness grafts, which involves removing all of the epidermis and dermis from the donor site. They harvest the full amount of skin in just a little piece, then close off the wound, and it leaves minimal scarring. For larger areas like my forearm and my knee, they use what is called a mesh graft or a split thickness graft, where they remove just the top layer of the skin. To extract the graft, they use a machine called a dermatome, which is basically a glorified potato peeler, and it removes skin from a donor site, usually somewhere on your body that will be covered by clothes like your butt, back, or in my case, my thigh. Sometimes, if there's no healthy skin to take from, they will use donor skin from a cadaver or a temporary patch from an animal. They then run it through a machine that puts a bunch of these holes into it and creates a diamond pattern. That allows for the skin to be stretched so they can cover larger areas, and that's what gives these types of grafts their unique pattern that looks kind of like snake skin or chicken skin. When I got in my accident, the doctors were pumping me full of fluids because I had lost so much blood. And unfortunately, my body wasn't circulating it properly, and it all pooled in my arm, and that is called Compartment Syndrome. My arm swelled up to about 4 times its regular size, and the pressure started cutting off the blood supply to my muscles and killing off the tissue. Luckily, the doctors noticed it in time and made huge incisions to relieve the pressure. 1 long one on the back of my forearm and 2 smaller ones on the back of my hand, and then 1 long one on the front of my forearm. If they hadn't noticed it when they did, a few more hours and I would have lost this arm. Now, because of the pressure building up in my arm, when they made this incision, it burst open, and they were unable to sew it back together like they did on the back of my arm. So that is why they gave me a skin graft. There was no other option. This is my arm about 48 hours after the grafting procedure, once my body has accepted it. If your body doesn't reject the skin, then after 36 hours, it will start developing blood vessels and connecting to the tissue around it. This is about 3 weeks into the healing process, and this is it about 5 years later. A lot of people think that this is really gnarly looking, but when you've seen it before I got the skin graft, you notice that it's actually healed up very well. Now, as you can see, my skin graft was laid on top of my muscles. For a regular arm, when we move, the ligaments glide underneath the skin. My skin graft, however, fused to my muscles, so I couldn't move my fingers or my wrist without it pulling on the skin. And so it gave me really limited movement. I couldn't even do anything with this. So to get the movement back that I have today, I had to spend hours and hours stretching my arm in my skin graft till eventually the graft broke free from my muscles and I've gotten pretty much full movement back. Now, I know that it looks like one paper cut and I would bleed out, but this is actually really tough skin. I've cut it lots of times doing yard work and different things, and it heals just like normal skin. The only difference is I can't feel it because there's no nerve endings. Absolutely no sensation at all. I can't feel that. So that's probably a little more than you wanted to know about skin grafts, but hopefully it has answered all of your questions. This is Levi Stanford living my best pirate life, and to all my fellow amputees, arr!